All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the AdTactix beta group crash course. I'm essentially going to go over kind of everything you need to know to get started using AdTactix. I've got some test files that everybody's going to be using so they can follow along really easily with this video. So I'm going to go over in this video how to kind of get ramped up with that. And I'm essentially going to walk through kind of all the main processes just in this one video, and then I'll have some timestamps if you need to jump to it in the future, so to just kind of keep things simplified in the training as we continue to develop it. But first off, when you log in, if I've granted you access, you'll have this new AdTactix beta group, and you can just click on this here to actually download your copy into your Google Drive. You want to make sure you're already logged in to the Google Drive folder that you save all the FBAExcel tools into. Just hit make a copy, and it's going to be a blank template. All right, so if you're familiar with the other tools, it's the exact same process, the exact same kind of authorization. And if you've already linked your dummy account to your FBAExcel account, you don't have to do step 4 here. So I'm going to just real quickly walk through the authorization. Just make sure it fully loads before you jump into this process. All right, so I'm going to blur out my, all right, and then pick your market. And if you haven't already done this, you need to go, and I'll just show you this really quick. Basically, you want to put your FBAExcel members area email in this first box, and then if you're using a different Google Drive account, like a dummy account, to store the tools, you need to put that in this one. If they're both the same, then just enter them the same. Just put them in lowercase as well. I've seen a few little issues there with capitalization, but then hit just save this account. And then you can come back in here, and if you have any issues with this authorization, it almost always revolves around an error you've made with the password or the username you're putting in. So if all else fails, double check that and redo it. Make sure there's no extra spaces, capitalization on the password, stuff like that. But then you're going to hit authorize. First time you do it, you're going to need to hit continue, and then choose your email account that you should already be logged into, since we had already logged in before we saved the tool. So you'll hit the email, you'll hit advanced, you'll hit go to tactics, scroll down, allow. All right, and once you're good there, you can hit authorize the second time, and you won't need to do that step we just did anymore when you open this up. It'll just be a one-time thing. And then once that authorizes, you'll see the menus pop up here at the top. So I've got the itinerary here I wanted to make sure. So I'm going to go over getting the test files downloaded and show you where the beta resources are. I'll just start there. So what we've got at the bottom of the settings tab is some beta group links. So this first one, you can check it out. It's basically just a table for new features for any bugs that you come across. It's a kind of group sheet that you can add to. Just please don't delete anything from there. The Zoom call schedule. So we're going to be doing weekly. We may do a couple times a week group calls that we can go through kind of the test files and new ideas, new features. My team's going to keep kind of building on. We've got some plans here to add more features in the coming weeks, but love to get your thoughts on that. So that's what those are about. And then the test files are what I want to go over right now. So to get the test files saved to your account, just click on this link here, and it's going to take you to a shared folder. What you're going to want to do, let that load. And once it loads, you'll have the AdTactix test files kind of folder up here. If you right click on that and then just download it like that. All right, now I'm in a incognito browser, so it's not actually going to let me download it. But what you'll want to do is just download that to your computer and unzip the files. It'll be a zipped file when you download it. And then what you can do is go back, and you'll find that since we authorized it, there's going to be an FBAExcel export files folder and a FBAExcel tools folder. If you double click on the FBAExcel tools, you'll see a AdTactix folder. Go ahead and double click on that. And you're going to want to put all of those test files in this new folder right here. So I'm going to pause this video and actually looks like I've already got them in here magically. So, all right, yeah, I forgot. I already shot a video yesterday on this, so that's why these are in here. But you're basically going to unzip the files and move them to this folder, and you'll see the exact same file names here. The test bulk file may be a little bit different, but you should be able to tell. So this is kind of the starting point. Get the test data in here, and then this video is just going to be structured in a way that you can follow along and do the exact same steps. And then the idea is once you're done following along with this crash course, you should be able to use your own data then and really make sense of kind of what's going on. But anyway, all right, so let's go back to our copy here. So from here, we've done step one. We've got our test files in our folder. Now I'm going to show you the data importing. So all the training is going to be actually embedded in the tool here. You'll be able to click anytime you see this info button, you can actually click on that. So for the data import, it's pretty straightforward if you follow along with the kind of SOPs that we have. If you click this video training, we're going to embed some videos as well, but right now they're just kind of inline text. But you can see there's some helpful kind of extensions and stuff you can download to help optimize the downloading and whatnot. But go down through here, it's pretty self-explanatory. Essentially it's going to be how to get what we have, the test files, how to get those for your own account. So you can follow along there. You can see it's showing you how to get all your ad data, the criteria as far as what to select, and then how to download them, what to name them. You'll notice that the names here are pretty important to automatically get the data imported into the tool. So for the test files and kind of this example, I'll just assume you've already read that, and then we're going to import since we already have them downloaded in our AdTactix data new folder, we're going to go ahead and import our sponsored products, brands, brand analytics, search term impression for both brands and products. And then we've got some Helium 10 historical rank files. Again, that SOP shows you where to get those from. The one thing I do have in this copy that you're downloading from the beta area is a already loaded search query performance report, ASIN report data. And I did that because Amazon's in the process of changing their UI around to allow downloads for that. And as soon as that happens, we're going to just add that functionality in line with kind of this current functionality of automatically importing it. But right now it is easier just to use a Chrome extension. So if you go back here, you'll see the Chrome extension. All right, so here's talking about the search query performance. So here's the web data scraper, and then it shows you kind of how to use it. And basically what you're going to end up doing is running through this. So this first button actually takes you to Amazon when you click it and allows you to download your bulk file. Again, we've already got our bulk file downloaded. It's right here. So this is the test one you're going to be using. But for your own account, you'll want to click that and just go and download it. I'll throw a screenshot up here of kind of where to click, but it's also in the SOP. All right, and then this one here is going to open up your supplemental reports. So anything that you have checked down here, that button is going to open you up there in Amazon. You do want to make sure you're already logged in. And then it's just a matter of saving your files to this AdTactix data new folder and then naming them accordingly so you can compare to how we have the test files, so on how to do that. All right, and then when you come to here, this is the first step kind of in this training that you'll want to do is click this button here. And I'm going to hit no because I forgot to actually grab my Helium 10 rank files. So let's go back up now and auto import our supplemental data. It's just going to import anything that you have checked. I don't have search query performance report checked because I've already imported that, and it's just hidden in the tool behind the scenes right now. So I'll show you kind of how to do it for your own account though after this data loads. But you can see the data loading up here in the upper right with the green bar. You're just basically looking for a finished script. I haven't put in the kind of final prompts yet, but you can see it's telling you if the data is imported correctly. If you've made a mistake, it'll give you some instruction as far as kind of what it's not liking as well. But you just essentially need to wait for this green loading to stop and then for your running script to turn to finished script, and then you're good to go. One other thing I'll mention too why this is loading is this import file move mode. If you click that box, it's going to move these files as they import into the tool from the new version of this folder structure to the imported version. So there's another kind of blank folder structure, and that just allows you to, if you do this once a week, let's say, it'll always have a blank new folder that you can save new files to. All right, so after your supplemental data comes in to import your search query performance ASIN data, you'll click on this button, and you can see the data here is already populated with the test data. If for your own data you would put it in, this would be blank, and you could use the Chrome extension that is talked about in the SOP, and you'll just paste the data using that Chrome extension into this table and just keep appending it, and then you have to carry down the week number in the ASIN. And then you'll just click this button here to save it when you're done, and it's going to run a short script to get some other data kind of compiled when it does that, and then it's going to actually hide this sheet so you don't see it anymore. So that's kind of the supplemental data importing of the test files that we've got going on here with the beta group. The other piece of data that you need, if we hop back up here, is you download and import your bulk file. So that's kind of the first step that we skipped over. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to import that by going to import. So AdTactix data new. This is the same place you'll go to get yours. Then you'll just find the bulk file and hit insert new sheet. All right, the other thing I didn't mention, if all you're doing is optimizing your bids and you don't want to use the AdTactix dashboard, you can basically skip over all the supplemental stuff and just hop right into downloading your bulk file, which is the step I'm doing right now, and importing that. So I've got my tabs in here. You can see I got sponsored products, brands, and display. Now I'm just going to go back up here and hit sync all data. And this process is just going to quickly go through all of my data source files that I just imported, including my ads report stuff here, and just prep it so we can use it. So you can see here it's actually bringing in our SKU list and our ASIN list from our test file. This is what we used to have to do like onboarding for in order to get some of this data, but now it's all really easy. So now it says ready to rock, so hit OK. All right, so at this point you should have our sponsored products data in here. This is our search term report, our sponsored brand search term report. We've got our search term impression share and stuff like that hidden in the background. You don't really need access to that. And then you have your ads report stuff. So at this point, this is what you should be seeing in front of you. We've gone through the data import SOP. Now let's talk about ad optimization and getting started with that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I'm just going to show you the steps that I want you to follow along and replicate. So it'll hopefully make sense to you as you go through them. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do, at least in this example, and then I'll explain a couple other ways you could potentially do it as well, but we're going to go through our 3 sponsored products, brands, and display campaign sheets and just quickly find our top targets. And then we're going to add those to the bid override table, and then we're going to let the account level row in the bid override table just govern kind of the rest of the targets that aren't in our top performers. So what we're going to do in the sponsored products is first head up to your optimized PPC menu and just hit enabled targets, and this will do a default sort where it's going to remove anything that's paused or archived and just show us what's enabled, and then it's going to sort it by orders. You could also sort it by sales if you wanted. And then you're just going to kind of click on the orders column here, and then down the bottom right you can see about 1,800 orders. So one thing you could do if you want to do a formula is just figure out like 80% of that, and then figure out how many of the targets account for that total. So let's pretend that if we select all these 1457, let's pretend that's 80%. And so we're going to take these targets, which are only 37 targets, and this column A, which is a custom column that got added during our sync process. This is the column in AdTactix that's used to add target level overrides to the bid override table. You've also got a few other custom columns that got added. You've got an ASIN column here in AM that literally tells you the ASINs involved for each of the targets. It's going to be in every row really, so you can use it as a filter across the board whenever you just want to know kind of every target associated with a certain ASIN. You can use that. And then the keyword count tells you how many active keywords are in that campaign. So those two kind of custom columns can be really helpful. But for this exercise, let's just grab these targets here, and I'm going to hit Control-C on the keyboard to copy them, go over to the bid override table, and then you're going to use Control-Shift-V, Anytime you're using AdTactix, you're going to want to hit Control-Shift-V to paste. That way it doesn't override any formatting. And then once you add overrides, go ahead and define which type of override. So in this case, they're target level overrides. So I'm just going to drag that down there. All right, and just to kind of make this relatively fast, I'm going to go through and do the same process for the brands. So you're going to come up here, enable targets. All right, so let's just take anything with an order here and use that as our starting point. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. And then lastly, for the display, all right, I'll just grab all of these. All right, cool. So we've added those. Now we're going to just sync the bid override table. So this is the button you hit here anytime you add anything and you want to sync all the metrics. And you'll notice in this version of AdTactix, we're actually going to get a column here that's going to tell us if it's from the sponsored products, sponsored brands, or sponsored display down here. You've got some metrics here that aren't showing up, and that's because we don't have this. These are metrics here coming in from our Helium 10 rank data. So those aren't coming in just because we don't have those keywords that we're tracking at this point, which is fine. And then some of this stuff is related to placements, which is only related to sponsored products. So that's why some of that data is missing. But the next step is you need to assign initial bid input settings for anything that's yellow. That means you don't have assigned bid input settings. You need to choose your bid formula you want to use is kind of step one, actually. So for that, you can pick that from your settings tab here, this green cell here. So if you don't know where to start, I'd recommend the Apex method. But if you've used revenue per click times target ACoS, or maybe you use this one here where it multiplies it by the bid over the cost per click, or the iterative method is a more advanced one as well, you can toggle those here. And then if you read the instructions there, you basically will just go up. And so like, for example, if we want to use the iterative, you'd come up here, bid override table, or no, I'm sorry, optimize bids, change bid settings layout, and then you'll get a prompt here that just tells you that it's changed. So then you can head over to your bid override table, and instead of the Apex criteria, you'll see here, this is the iterative criteria, but I'm going to use the Apex for this example, so I'm going to go back. So what I'm going to do is just use this account level row as a starting point. And before I get into too much info, and I don't want to go crazy, there is a pretty good SOP here that explains a lot of this that I'm going over, so you definitely read over that. But this account level row, if all else fails and no other criteria is met, this is going to be the criteria that your bids are going to be governed by. So there's a special formula that I'll put in the members area that you can read over. There'll be a video too that kind of goes into more detail on these settings. You can also hover over here and it'll tell you on the headers kind of what each one means and how it equates into the formula. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste this down. So I just hold in Shift and hit Control-Shift-V to paste everything. All right, and then if you want to get fancy, you can look at kind of your current cost per clicks here for each target, and you can adjust like your max bid. This is a ceiling that you won't bid above. Right now you can see it's set pretty high. And the idea is we want to really bid more aggressively on these targets that are doing well, at least to start. We don't want to be cutting a lot of our ad spend because they're the ones that are carrying our account. But you can make changes. So like if you want to bid more aggressive, you can change your target ACoS and your high ACoS, mid ACoS thresholds, your up bid. This will play into account for any targets that are doing really well. So you can boost your bid, give it more room to move there. But you can add formulas. You can do different things if you want to use some of these metrics to kind of help set your criteria. You can get kind of fancy with it, but for the sake of this example, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. I'm just going to kind of leave it as is. And then what I wanted to illustrate though is you can get a preview of what your bid's actually going to be by clicking this button here. And it's going to take into account all of your bid settings that we've set along with the target level metrics and then give you the new bid. And it's going to be based on what your original bid is at the target level along with obviously the formula input criteria. And then if you see this range here, that means you have some placement modifiers. So if you go over here, you can see you've got either product pages or top of search modifiers. So that's why you get a range there. You can turn that off if you uncheck this and then use the bid preview. That'll turn that that setting off. But anyway, that's kind of the quick start. Let's get every target that's doing well on our bid override table and start monitoring it. So that's kind of one exercise I wanted to get you guys acclimated with. The next one is I want to show you how to get the target sniper data in there, because that's one of the most powerful tracking features of this whole system. So to do that, it's really simple. Just go up to File, Import. Then you're going to go to the FBAExcel Tools folder, and it'll be under AdTactix, Data New. This is one of your test files. So 60-day targeting, that's the one we want, and it's going to be the daily report when you're downloading it for your own account. And then you'll hit Insert New Sheet, Import Data, and then once this data comes in, this is a pretty big file as far as all the Seller Central reports. This is one of the bigger ones. All right, so you don't really need to do much with this. You just need to, once it imports and saves, go up to Optimize PPC, Bid Override Table, Target Sniper. We've already downloaded it. This is what you would click to jump right to the page to get it downloaded if you didn't have it, but we're going to initialize it. Just runs a really quick optimization there on that file. So hit yes, hit OK, and then you'll just hop back up here and go to Bid Override Table, and then you'll click on Launch Target Sniper. All right, it's going to say Target Sniper locked on. Go ahead and hit yes, and this is just going to aggregate all your targeting data in conjunction with everything you've got on the bid override table, and it's going to allow you to look back at the past 60 days and see all the PPC metrics on a daily basis, kind of in line with all this other data. So it can be really useful for testing new campaigns, making sure you're getting impressions, making sure you're bidding at the right amount, and also just looking back historically and seeing if you had a span that just did really well. So you'll hit this plus button above the target sniper, and that's going to expand. So if the rows here, I have them kind of screwed up, you can always hit this reset table button. That's going to put a filter around the entire table, and it's going to resize your rows for you to make it look better and more user friendly. So the main feature though is if you double click on any of these rows kind of in between them, it's going to expand it out and give you access to all the metrics. And then if you've been tracking the organic rank and sponsored rank in your Helium 10 historical reports that we imported, I don't have that in the test data unfortunately for a lot of these, but for your account, if you've tracked the right keywords, you'll have that, which is very powerful as well. But what I like to do is just look back and say, okay, was there a span or stretch where my cost per click was a certain value and I was doing really well, and then all of a sudden, it's dropped off for whatever reason. You can really quickly, at a glance, see kind of what's going on there. So a lot of use cases for that, but I just wanted to kind of put you through that exercise so you know it's there. Then you can also sort by certain metrics there if you want to real quickly. Just come up to Bid Override Table Target Sniper. So if you want to sort by, say, your spend, you can click that. That's going to throw a filter in the sort by column, and then it's just going to allow you to be able to sort by the spend then. So you can do like a Z to A, and then the highest spends there at the top. So you can just use that. Again, a lot of different use cases for that, but I'm going to go ahead and minimize the Target Sniper now. You've also got your placement metrics here. So this is going to be at the campaign level. Keep in mind we have targets here, and these are at the campaign level. If you've got single keyword campaigns, they can be obviously kind of a one-for-one and be accurate, but otherwise if they're multi-keyword campaigns, which the keyword count is going to be in this column here in AH, so that's useful as well. There's also some custom columns here that we're going to be adding kind of more cross-reference data from the AdTactix dashboard into the bid override table that can just help you make better decisions. You got more details here in your campaign versus the ASINs, match type, portfolio, ad group campaign, pretty self-explanatory there. The tag and sub-tag columns can be really helpful for tagging different targets if you've got a strategy or you're testing or whatever. There's a bunch of different things you can do there. The other field I did not mention, if you have experience with Apex, you'll be well aware of this, but any value you put in here, you'll notice, say I put like $2 and then I redo my bid preview, this is going to overwrite basically anything. So when it updates there, this is going to be $2, even though the, well, for this case, I've actually got a modifier, so it's got potential to go higher, but that's going to be the bid, is going to be the base bid is going to be $2. So that overwrites everything. There is a precedence here. It applies for all the bid formulas as far as how this kind of bid override table works. But essentially you have the ability to add target level overrides, which that's what we have on the bid override table right now. We could just as easily have put a campaign name in here. And if you hover over here, you can see what the valid inputs are. So you've got the column A target level input, which that's what we've done. You can do campaign names or you can do portfolio names. And the combination of what you have on the bid override table of all those three will dictate, which bid settings have the higher level precedence and govern the actual final bid. So you got to kind of understand that. And the precedence level is target trumps the campaign, which trumps the portfolio, which trumps your account level. So your account level is the last line of defense. And the one I didn't mention is this fixed bid override. That actually trumps your even target level override. So that's the way you can really kind of almost manually steer your certain targets or certain campaigns. It works the same way. So hopefully you can envision different ways you could build out this table. Maybe you have all your campaigns for ASIN 1 in a certain portfolio and then all the campaigns for ASIN 2 in another portfolio. Maybe you already have it set up that way. Well, in your case, it may be easier just to drop the portfolio names in here and then bid based on the economics of each product, since they're kind of structured in ASINs and organized in that fashion. So all right, so one other thing I'll mention is you can also use the bid override table just to monitor different slices of your account. So let's pretend that for whatever reason I want to just look at how a certain portfolio is doing across, maybe I have the same portfolio across multiple ad types. So I'm going to go and just find one like this sponsored product exact portfolio, and I'm going to add that now to my bid override table. I'm going to put it as a portfolio level override, but I'm not going to use it to bid with. I'm just going to use it to monitor. So let's see, hit the wrong button. All right, and then I'm going to put this as a portfolio. And now when I update the metrics, it's going to show me all of the information there for just that portfolio. So you can see how that portfolio is doing. Now, one other way you could use this is, let's say you're using a SaaS tool to monitor or manage your bids, but you'd like to use the Target Sniper for looking at like your past 60 days worth and looking at your placement data, stuff like that. Have users that will deploy similar target overrides, but then they just don't apply any bid settings and kind of use this dashboard to monitor things. Perfectly a good use case for it. So just want to illustrate that. So next, what I want to show you is how you actually change your bids. We haven't actually changed anything yet. We've just put some targets that we want to keep an eye on the dashboard, and we've assigned some initial generic bid input settings. The actual process that you would use on a daily basis is, if you're just wanting to manage your bids, you would come up, do it like we just did. You'd import your bulk file, you'd sync everything. You wouldn't necessarily have to do the supplemental report stuff. You could actually skip that if all you're doing is optimizing your bids. But then after you've kind of checked off and made sure you don't want to make any changes to your bid override table, when you're ready to actually change your bids, all you need to do is come up here to step 1 and actually pick whichever formula you're using. In our case, we've set our input settings for the Apex method. So we're going to just worry about our sponsored products as this example, but you do the exact same thing for sponsored brands, sponsored display. You can actually use this one here to do them all at once as well. So that's a new feature we added. But for this one, I'm just going to hit Apex formula for sponsored products, and you'll see it's going to go over here to our sponsored products file. And in column AF, I don't know if you saw it there, but it just updated our bids. So I'll highlight this in red so you can see it. So these are our new bids that are going to be changed once we upload our file to Amazon. Same deal, you could do it independently. If we go to brands here, optimize bids, sponsor brands, Apex formula. This one is in column AB here. All right, so those changed there. And one other kind of quick filter that is pretty handy is before you actually create the export file, and the export file is actually in step 3. There's kind of an intermittent step here if you want to update your campaign budgets or placement modifiers from the bid override table. If I hop back there, you'll notice there's some underlined values. Those are inline editable. So if I change this, I could change that to like $100, let's say. Then I'd come up here, fine tune, and update campaign budget. That's going to update my campaign budget in that campaign for sponsored products in this case. So just know that that's kind of a one step you can do if you want. You don't have to. But then before you go and actually create your final output file, which is done in this step 3, one thing I like to do is review the changes. And to do that, you can just go in here and just very quickly click that review bid changes, and you'll see a new column kind of appear here on the far left. So right there in column D, and we get a difference now between our new bid and our old bid, and it actually sorts it. So you can kind of look at the top and look at the bottom and see what the biggest changes were and decide, does that make sense, and figure out kind of why that happened. Usually it's going to be based on, the ACoS and the bid input settings you set. Keep in mind we set some pretty generic settings, so you'll want to put a little more thought into it than we did in this video when you're using it for your own account. And the big piece of advice I can give too is, and I'll have another video that I'll throw up in the beta group on this as well, as far as assigning bid inputs, but make sure, again, you're not like totally hacking the bids from the current performance and kind of what it's been currently set at. Start out with bid settings that give you reasonably close bids to what's your starting bid is originally, and that'll help you just kind of get acclimated to the system before you really start making moves. At any rate, once you've kind of dialed those in and you're feeling good about all the changes, all you need to do is come up here and export your files to your Google Drive folder. It'll actually export automatically to the FBAExcel export files folder that got created during the authorization. But what you'll do is, if you're using sponsored products or sponsored brands, you got to keep in mind that Bulk Sheets doesn't support campaign level negation. So you may have them at this point right here in this test file. I don't actually have any examples of that, but just know that you have to click this button and it'll automatically remove those before you actually create those applicable files. So sponsored brands, it doesn't support any drafts that have been rejected, so we just remove them. So click that button for sponsored brands, click this one for sponsored products, and then when you're ready to actually create the file for, in this example, sponsored products, you would just click this button here, and then it's going to generate a export file that, let's see, looks like this right here. And then this is the one you would upload to Amazon that will actually change the bids in your campaign manager. So that's kind of the process. And then the next time you want to, maybe in a couple days when you want to optimize your bids again, you're going to just delete these green sheets that you've got in the file right now, and you're going to hop back in here to step 1, import new sheets, and then go through the process again. So it'll be a lot easier though, because at that point you'll have all of the information already on your bid override table, so it's just a matter of syncing that and then making any fine-tuned tweaks, and then you'll hop back up here and you can optimize your bids again, and it'll do the exact same process. So that is kind of what I wanted to drive home there. Target Sniper Sheet, you don't actually need this file in the background after you've synced it to the bid override table. This does take a lot of resources, so I would recommend just kind of deleting that if you don't need it. All right, so now we're going to get into the new stuff, which is the new AdTactix keyword dashboard. So I'm going to just show you kind of a use case example that you can follow along with the test files and start to get acclimated for what this baby can do. So this is going to be how it's going to look when you first get started. It's going to be completely blank, and I'm just going to show you how to start populating this with some information. So we're going to go up first, go to File, Import, and we're going to pull in our keyword dominator example. So I've got a file just here in your test files that's an export from keyword dominator. All right, so it's going to be this one right here that has the TR, which stands for tactics report. Just double click on that guy and then replace data at selected cell. So you are going to want to make sure, you can see here I'm in H41. You're going to want to make sure you're in this list type column, and you use the replace data at selected cell, hit import data. This is just going to make sure everything gets put in the right place. All right, and then anytime you want to kind of sync everything together that you put on here, you are going to want to ensure that you have your sponsored products, brands display. You want to have all this already in the file and Really, this what I'm doing right now is best done right after we click to sync all data and before we actually optimize our bids. I just wanted to show you the optimized bid portion because it is a bit of a separate process. There's really four main things that this tool does well. It optimizes bids, manages keywords, it creates new campaigns, and then it allows you to bulk negate. So it's kind of four things, but they can be done independently. So that's kind of what I'm trying to illustrate here. All right, and then what you want to do is go ahead and start populating this with the keywords that you really want to go after. And the keyword dominator is pretty powerful because you can use competitor data in order to see what they're ranking well for and making a lot of sales for. And then you can start launching those in your own campaigns as well. The other option is the search term report. So you've got a section over here where we can add search terms. I'll show you a quick example there in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and sync this though, just so it pulls in some data. So I'm going to hit yes. And you'll see if we're advertising for it right now, it's going to actually show up and populate some ad metrics for us. You can see there it's starting to pull in some keyword ranking metrics that we are tracking, some of the ones we aren't tracking yet. And you could always go through, add priorities to the ones you want to track, and then go into Helium 10, add those to your tracker. So the next iteration of importing your supplemental data, all that all populate. So that's just kind of, you're going to have to figure out the process you want to use there. But there we've kind of synced some keyword dominator file keywords. Now let's do some search terms. So this one here, you can kind of come up with your own default criteria. This is just a bit of a generic one here. I'm going to actually delete this guy here for the search term rank minimum. I'm going to keep both of these checked. Both of these files are down here, so you'll see that this feature interacts with both of these search term report files. This is just a souped up search term report summary report from Seller Central that got automatically imported when we synced our data. You can see it does have some extra columns here that are really helpful. You got search term impression rank, if it's in an active campaign that you're targeting yet or not, stuff like that. So don't really need to worry a whole heck of a lot about what that is, but what you do need to know how to do is just come up here, click search term, filter search term reports, and this is going to take whatever criteria you've specified here, hop over to both of these files and just run a quick sort for us so we can see which search terms meet that criteria. One important filter you are going to want to think about is the single versus multi, and that means single versus multi campaigns. So if you're targeting more than one ASIN or SKU in one campaign, you don't necessarily know if you made a sale, for example, you don't know if it was a sale on SKU A or SKU B if you have multi-SKU campaigns. That's why I highly recommend all single SKU campaigns, structured campaigns, as opposed to multi-SKU, because it makes this specific step and process a lot more accurate from a data standpoint. At any rate, so these are all the ones that we had it set to all for the status. So we're seeing active plus inactive, and we have it set to single. So that's why it's what we want. You only see one ASIN here. That's because that's a single. And then what you can do, you can further filter this if you want to. So here's our orders. So we had it set to whatever 3 and 1,000. So if you want to go up even further to like 5, let's say, you could do that at this point. It'll further filter it down. But the idea is you can pick whichever ones of these that you're going to want to potentially put into campaigns or track on your AdTactix dashboard. And it's going to be based on the search term is what's actually going to get moved over. So don't confuse it with the target. So you can move these columns and make it larger. Keep in mind, this is all just dummy test data, so it's really not potentially relevant. At any rate, the search term is what's going to get mapped over. So to map things over, all you do is come up here, search terms, push to AdTactix, and it's going to run a quick script here and then move everything, and then it's going to actually update the data in series with this operation. So the idea of what we're doing here is we're trying to get all of the keywords that we're going to want to potentially advertise for or monitor on this dashboard. That's what we're doing right now, is we're taking it from different sources. So we did a keyword dominator file. Now we're doing a search term report kind of operation. And then the last one I'll show you here in this video is the search query performance report, which that one's really powerful because that's all Amazon centric data. So you can see here it's just updated everything for us. If we scroll down, this is ST stands for search term. You can see also it puts the date added For the keyword dominator, it actually pulls in the date from the keyword dominator file was populated, but all the rest of them are going to be the date added. And for the search term report move that we just did, it actually pulls in and captures the kind of instantaneous metrics for that search term when we moved it over, and that just can be used for historical purposes if you want. You can also hide certain sections, so let's say now we don't want to really see the search term section, we can hide that and just click this button here, and that's going to toggle on and off whichever ones we don't have selected. All right, and then once you've gotten all of these kind of dialed in, actually let me go ahead and right now do the SQR move. So for that one, you just go back up and do SQR keywords. This is going to pull anything that's currently not on the AdTactix dashboard, but it is in your SQR tab, which we covered that briefly at the beginning of this training. You can see here it's pulling some stuff in right here. And usually Amazon's giving you, I think, between, I don't know, 50 to 100 of your most popular keywords for all of your products. So that's why we're basically right now, until Amazon figures out their download report situation, we're just using that Chrome extension to copy and paste the data into the search query tab, which you can go back and look at that, or there's the data import SOP you can read on how to do that. But you can see right now it's pulling in all our data. It gives you a nice breakdown of all the search query performance report metrics, so you can use this table to filter and just decide and plan out your keyword strategy. But those are really the three main ones that we have implemented right now are 1, the keyword dominator, 2, the search term reports, and then 3, the search query performance reports. We're going to have some other ones as well that we have in the works, but they're not integrated yet. So once you've got all of this in place, then you've got some extra kind of tools you can use with the AdTactix dashboard. You can create PPC campaigns based on this data. There's some other kind of slick things. You can see I've already got this, what is it? Yoga set with map populated. If you ever want to see more historical data for any of these, just click on the row, go up to AdTactix SQR history, and this is going to replace whichever one this is. So Mark Bell wrist wrap, it's going to replace it there, and then show us our history there. And then you can hover over any of these down here if you have more than, this can eventually hold up to like 52 weeks, a year's worth. So you could see all your progress and history on that sort of stuff. The other thing is, the other really powerful thing on this is the active checker. So this will tell you at a glance any keyword that you aren't currently targeting in exact, single keyword exact, broad phrase, ASIN targeting. So you've also got some ASINs on here that pull over from your search term report. So keep that in mind. This is really powerful for planning out your keyword strategy and saying, hey, if you want to launch 3 to 5 new campaigns, let's say a week, and X number of targets in those, you can maybe use this tag or notes field over here to say, I'm going to launch these on this week, these on the next week, and maybe plug the date in or something like that, come up with a schedule. So super powerful there. The one thing I want to show you is the audit, and then we'll go over to the bulk campaign creation. So the audit, all you need to do is just come up and you can either click from here, run PPC audit, or there's also this icon over here that I'll just use in order to give us a really good sponsored product audit. We're going to have this for the brands and display here soon. We just haven't added that quite yet. All right, so once the data populates, it's pretty well done. And if you don't have anything in this cell, that means it's for all of your ASINs together. You can plug in your ASIN here by just picking it from the drop down, and it's going to dynamically change and show us our placement level metrics and our combined metrics for that specific ASIN. And the reason I like this a lot, and I do this before I build out my campaigns, is you can really get a bird's eye view of what's working well on your account and what's not, and do more of what's working, do less of what's not. It's pretty self-explanatory. But with these filters now, you could, let's say I just want to focus on this JFH product. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to clear, I'm going to pick JFH, and I'm going to sort that. So I'm just seeing the data related to that. And then let's see everything for my search query performance report. That is, we'll do select all, or I'm sorry, clear. We want to see anything that's 1, 2, or 3. All right, so we've got 3 there. Now let's see if we're even targeting them, which we are not. So let's pretend now that we want to create some campaigns for this, and we're going to make some single keyword campaigns. So to do that, we're just going to select these 3 keywords, and we're going to go ahead and do a 1, a 2, and a 3. We've got a SOP for this as well. It's going to show up in this one here for this bulk campaign creation, and then I've got one I'm working on that'll go here, so you can learn more about kind of this tool and this thing I'm doing here. But this is a good exercise just to kind of follow along and do this exact step that I'm doing here, so you can get an idea how it works. If I wanted to put them all in the same campaign, I'd actually put this as all as the number 1. But since I want them all in their own campaign, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. All right, and then you're just going to come up and do create PPC campaigns. All right, now when you get to this step, you're going to type in the word keywords and hit OK. So once that finishes, you can, you would have actually already wanted to do this before I ran that operation, but you can specify kind of your custom naming scheme. So if you like a better delimiter, you can pick that from here. If you like a different order, you can change that. You can actually plug in your brand name. You can plug in some custom stuff. Ad type, if they're all sponsored products, you can use that. So pretty self-explanatory. From there, we just go over to the builder, and we can use the custom naming tool now to replace out all of our information. So I'm just going to update custom names and hit yes. All right, and then all of that stuff will get changed. Now you can actually override any of this at this point and tweak it if you want. You can actually add, if you know the portfolio ID codes, which are actually in this portfolio tab here. You need the numerical values for that setting there, but you could plug those in if you want to go ahead and drop them in there in portfolios. And then you can actually add negatives. You can do a lot of extra stuff here I'm not going to cover, but this is kind of the way you build out single keyword campaigns. And then when you're ready to create your upload file, you'll just come up here, hit create campaign upload file, and then it's going to build out that for you that you can upload right to Amazon. And to do that, you're just going to go up to create campaigns and export to Google Drive, and that's just going to take this file and it's going to save it to your FBAExcel export files folder. So when you get finished script, I can go here now and you can see campaign upload folder or file. This is the one you're going to upload to Campaign Manager, and then the next time that you download your bulk file and import these 4 sheets, your sponsored products tab will have these new campaigns in it. So that can be helpful because then when you update your AdTactix dashboard, they will show up as under the active checker. They'll be populated here in the single keyword section, and you'll start to see the metrics populate if you have started to get some results. So that can be pretty powerful. You could also envision adding them if they're ones that you're wanting to test to the bid override table using the same process we went over earlier. You would just put them on here now, sync that, and then you can track them here with the target sniper. So it's a kind of a cycle on how you can really start to envision how to use the data and efficiently move through your account. From there, we've talked about creating the bulk files. Let me hop over to my agenda to make sure I haven't missed anything. AdTactix dashboard, keyword harvesting, we've talked about that, new campaign builder. So yeah, the negating is really the other element that we haven't really discussed. And there's a few different tools that we're using for the wasted ad spend. So the first is at the target level. And when I'm talking about the bulk sheet filters, I'm always referring to the sponsored products, brands, or display sheets. And these are everything that you're targeting, not exactly what the customers are searching. So if you've got a broad or a phrase or auto campaign, they could be searching something a bit different than what you're actually seeing in here for the keyword. But at the targeting level, you can reduce some wasted ad spend through checking for duplicates. So if you're bidding against yourself, it's a bit of a conspiracy theory on whether that really matters or not, but I just recommend only targeting one key, the one keyword for each product in one match type. So there's no point in kind of duplicating that effort. You could potentially be bidding against yourself. So this tool here just allows you to quickly see, it does a pretty advanced sort. So you can see here there's some ASINs that are the same. In this case, we could just look and see which one's performing the worst. Or if, they're both performing well, why not keep them both going? But let's say this one's not performing well. We would just change this to paused, like that. And then while I recommend doing the bid optimization as the last kind of phase in optimization cycle, is because you can do things like this and say, okay, I want to pause that. Maybe you go and use some of the other tools and come back. The reason you would do this last is any changes you make into your bulk sheets, when you create this final output file, this is going to kind of be the locked in version that you upload it and the changes get made from. So just keep that in mind. But that's how you can trim out some waste there. There's also the poor performers checker. So one thing that is a really important concept to understand is this section right here, and I actually probably need to change. Let me go ahead and do that right now. Hang on. All right, so I just updated this header just to kind of give it a little more explanation, but these three filters are what is used in our poor performers bulk sheet filter, which, if to illustrate that, just go over to sponsored products, and then I'm going to click on poor performers, and you'll see it's going to kind of filter my sheet here, and then it's going to pick out any target that is currently active that meets that criteria in that poor performers section. So I'm going to hit done, and if I go back now, you'll see that that criteria was related to high impressions with a low click-through rate, high spend with no conversions, high clicks with no conversions. So you can modify that information there and then just rerun the poor performer script there, and it'll re-sort your different sheets. And you can run this on your products, brands, and display. And then when you get that information, you can basically decide, hey, do I want to pause this? Is it really performing badly to the point where I don't want to spend any more on it? And you can pause it in that case. And I always recommend just pausing it at the target level. So to do that, you just, again, change this value here to the word paused. And then when you create your final output file, that gets uploaded to Amazon, that will be paused in the campaign. So that's kind of how that works. Also a really powerful feature if you are testing new keywords, and say you've got some new campaigns that you've launched, and maybe you tag them here as testing, something like that. You can always filter this table by just to see that tag, and then depending on if it's performing well or not, and that's where the target sniper as well comes in. You can kind of follow along with it on a daily basis. But let's pretend it's not performing well, and it's got $10 of ad spend with no conversions, and it's getting good impressions. It's not working out. Well, that keyword is actually going to come up automatically when we run that poor performers filter, because it has hit our spend threshold, in this case of $10. So you would automatically see that, and you could just have it as a step in your SOP that you're going to decide to pause that at that point, or you let it go. It's your decision, but that's an option there for you. So that example there is talking again about the targeting kind of slice of your ad account. The other aspect, though, is your search term reports, and especially when we're talking about our research campaigns like broad phrase, auto, you can definitely be wasting a lot of money by getting triggered for keywords that aren't relevant, and that's the search term column here as opposed to the targeting, which is here. So what the Stoptimizer tool does, which is this next one, is it uses that same filter criteria, but it applies it to your search term report. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it here and just show you on our sponsored products. You can run the same thing on your sponsored brands. I'm going to show you what it does here. So it gives us a filter here. You can see this negate column. You can tell all ones you've already negated. So I guess it's smart, since we're negating in this case, you can just go ahead and remove those as well. All right, and then from here you can see none of these have orders. They've got significant spend on them. This one's got $42, and it's just not working out. So these would be all good potential use cases for negating. The exacts, you got to keep in mind, these would show up on both your targeting and your search term slice that we did on our poor performers, if both of those match exactly. And Amazon's been changing some stuff here. So you can see this test data here isn't checking out 100% because it's just the way I built the file, but this one here, this would potentially show up in the poor performers as well. But just keep in mind there's kind of two ways you can go about this, and I actually recommend doing both of them and kind of assessing both of them. So for the bulk negating, though, you're just going to use this select column, and go ahead and click that, and then go up to the wasted ad spend menu, click add selected to bulk negate tool, and this is going to add it to this bulk negate red icon here. You can see I already had some that were added from a previous run, but once you have everything on here that you're going to want to bulk negate, you actually do need to go through and pick whichever of the three apply. If it's an auto campaign that has some ASINs, you want to pick this one here. I don't see any in this case. Actually, here's some ASIN targeting campaigns. Yeah, these here you would actually pick like that. And then these other ones, let's pretend we're just going to do all negative exact match or negatives. And then the same deal here. All right, and then once you're comfortable with that, the other bulk file that you can create is the negative upload file. So you just click that button there, and then it's going to generate a new file. So I'm going to yes. This is just going to basically overwrite anything that was already there. All right, and you get it created like that. You can see that these that were the ASIN targeting get formed a little bit different. So you don't really need to understand that. Just know that you need to click the export to Google Drive when you're ready to create your final file. And then when we go to our export files, you'll see it populate there under negative upload file. So upload that to Campaign Manager, and then all of those search terms that we deemed not very good will be negated. All right, and a few other features that I'll end with is there's some navigation tools that can be really helpful. The bid override table, one tricky thing is because you're kind of adding keywords to this table, sometimes you want to go back and actually find them really quickly in your actual bulk file. So what you can do is you can click on this cell here, which is the override cell, and then you can come up to Optimize PPC and click on the Show in your sponsored products bulk sheet. And this one right here I think only works right now for our sponsored products. We'll have it for the quick retrieval of the brands in display as well, but you can see it takes you right to that location on your bulk file, so that can be really helpful. The other one is if you click in any row, this is mostly useful in like broad keyword match type targets, but we'll just do this as an example. So click in the row and you can come up and say, okay, I want to see in my search terms anything that is triggering for this target. So I'm going to hit yes, and then it's going to give us a prompt that just says it's done. So I'm going to hit OK, and then we go over now to our search term file, and it'll see it's filtered everything for that target, so we can see kind of what our results are of that, just of that target. So that can be helpful as well. The Labs tab is kind of the last one we haven't really covered. These are some quick sort type features where you can put in a campaign list. And for example, if we grab, let's say, let's grab a couple campaign names. So we got a campaign name here, and I'll just do it as one, for example. But you could have a list of them is kind of the trick with this. And then you can go down and hit, I want to see everything that's on this list or not on this list. So in this case, let's see everything that's on this list, which is just going to filter our bulk file for that campaign. All right, and now we can see that there's the campaign, and you can see everything associated with that campaign. So that can be really helpful just for kind of bouncing around and getting organized. You can use the portfolio one if you want to quickly kind of restructure your account and add different portfolios. You can put portfolio ID numbers in there, which, or I'm sorry, it's actually the name list in this version. So you get the name list from, there's a concise list if you go to this portfolios tab, and the portfolio name is right here. So you can plug that in, and then it's going to filter your sheets accordingly. So I think that's about it. The other thing is just make sure you go through and check out all of the SOPs. That's going to be the kind of the one place that's always going to have updated information. Sometimes the videos may have a little bit older UI, so always go and kind of read the SOPs in the header for each section if you're not quite sure what to do. And then we're going to be adding a new section here. I've got kind of some skeleton stuff built out already, but it's going to be more strategic based SOPs that as we use the tool and find tips and tricks, we'll add those in here that you can follow along kind of on your daily, weekly, monthly workflows and just work together to get better. So I will talk to you guys on the weekly Zoom calls coming up. I hope you're excited about the beta group, and I appreciate you being involved in it. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.